welcome to episode one, technically two, of the Unhinged Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Kenny McKnight, or the insane Vincent Cross. But he shouldn't be with us today, so instead, I decided to have my own co-host, the Legacy title, which is similar to our guest here. Our guest is Jerry Yeager's Joka Wyld. He has his own co-host there in Mucha. The only difference is my co-host has value.
First of all, Vincent Cross, if there's anything that needs to be said, it's that if it has the words Vincent and Cross, there's instantly no value. This is value. This is the official Joka Wyld shirt that you can get now at teespring.com/Joka Wyld merchandise. Get yours now. But back to what I was saying. No one cares about you, Cross.
How much?
$19.99.
That would cost more.
Again, though, that's just a secondary title. Who was the world champ? Who was the first TWA champion?
Me.
You stole the belt. That does not make you the first.
It was in my bag before it was in yours. That is so wrong.
I don't want to keep talking about this.
See, this is what happens when Benicia isn't here to keep me on task.
Nothing goes the way it's supposed to.
Well, I know you've already done his podcast in the past. There's a lot of stories you guys already talked about. I'm pretty sure you already covered this there, but in case there's anyone listening that didn't listen to that one, what was your initial motivation? What made you want to get into the business?
I've always loved professional wrestling. I grew up being a huge fan of it, and there was literally no years that I didn't watch it. Earliest memories of things I got into on TV was wrestling, and the whole time growing up, I'm like, I want to try this. I want to do this, and like everyone else that is our age, we all did backyard wrestling with friends, and from there, the love just grew more.
Okay, somewhere in my house, I've got old toy belts from backyard, so I can't say anything about that.
We used my WCW replica belt as our title in the backyard. Yeah, we were fancy.
Yeah, I didn't have anything that fancy. We had the plastic ones, which is kind of hard to convince people that they're real. But if you hold them from a bad angle with a bad camera, it just might be good.
If the light hits them in a terrible way, you can get it past.
At one point, we actually took an old tag title toy, and we tried to make our own hardcore title. So we broke it and put paper on it, and we had it for 2 years before we realized it had hardco on it. There was only one R. I was looking at it one day. I'm like, what the hell is hardco?
It's a step above hardcore.
Oh. Well, then I had something that was even better than the hardcore title.
It works.
In fact, it was during that time when I had the initial damage that caused all my issues with my mouth. Because Big Rig hit me in the face with a chair.
I thought those damages just happened because you never know how to shut your mouth.
That's probably part of it. I cannot deny that. Thankfully, people like me. Otherwise, I'd be in a lot worse shape these days because I have done and said things that should have pissed off a lot of people. But I'm hilarious.
But have you ever hit a kid with a chair?
I tried. You were there.
It's true.
And the security guard took it at the last second. I was going to do it. Nothing like that moment when you're about to hit at the kid and the guard is just watching you. I'm going, do your job.
See, but at least I succeeded.
Because you actually hit the kid.
So hard.
Well, does David Day count?
If he does that mean that Timmy counts too?
Well, of course.
Okay,
I'm just trying to create more heat with you and David. I'm constantly trying to ruin your tag.
Stop trying to ruin Wild Days. Wild Days is the best thing in the world, okay?
Hey, well, the best thing may have been when David went splat at the last show in New Haven. I genuinely thought he was dead.
I was more worried about him whenever. Do you remember when me and him had the Falls Count Anywhere match?
Yeah, off the basketball
Yeah,
hoop.
I was more worried about him off that one because the whole time before the show, he's so you got me when I jump, right? Like you got me, you'll be there. Like yeah, you know I got you. I'll be right there. And then as soon as he goes to jump, I'm like off on the side. So he completely misses me, and he like his leg smacks into the head of one of the trainees, and then he just smacks the back of his head off the ground. And I'm like, oh fuck, David just died.
Pin him. Who cares what the script is? Pin him.
No,
Who were some of your inspirations? Like, not just like people that, growing up you looked up and went, "Oh, I want to be like them," but when you came up with Joka Wyld, because I know for me, people always assumed that growing up that I was a huge fan of Raven and people like that because
right.
of the character, and I'm like, no, actually, I was a fan of Bret Hart and Sting and Nash and all the the cool guys, or the people like Shawn that are athletic. I just happened to be none of those things, so I found something that did work.
But I would say, as far as like my talking smack and everything, would probably be The Rock because I consider him to be one of the best talkers ever in the history of professional wrestling.
Absolutely.
And the character, I don't like. I get a lot of comparisons to the Mankind thing because where he did Sacco, but I feel that Mucha is not the same as Sacco.
Oh no.
But don't get me wrong, I love Mankind. Mick Foley is a damn legend, but yeah, I would say The Rock. I'm brain farting right now, but do you remember this independent wrestler? It was Lord Zoltan, I believe was his name. Yeah, that dude. I used to watch him, and I loved him.
I think he still works.
I thought he retired because I think he had. I hope I'm not wrong here, but I know he had cancer, but I don't remember if he got through it or what. But I think he retired because of that.
Okay. So I saw pictures. It's been a few years ago, but I saw pictures of him still working.
But yeah, so that was one, and I loved watching Delirious. That guy is hilarious in a ring.
Oh yeah.
And I can't even lie. There was a few times that I stole a couple of his spots in my like earlier matches just because I loved them so much.
Well, I think especially early on, we all steal someone's spots at some point.
Oh yeah. I remember one of my first independent matches was against my brother, and it was a no DQ. And I remember one of the guys who helped train me, Vance Desmond.
Yeah.
He was there, and he filmed. I don't know if he did or if it was someone that was with him. They filmed it, but you could hear him talking while the filming was going on. And in the middle of the match, Chuck calls for a tombstone. Like this is how green we were at this point.
In the middle
of the match, and I kick out, not put my foot on the rope, nothing else. I kick out of a tombstone in the middle of a match, and you can literally hear Vance Desmond on the stream on the recording, like, "What the hell? Like, you can't do that." But yeah, so that was one of my.
Is AEW?
No, because then it would have been a Canadian destroyer.
A Canadian destroyer tombstone pile driver.
Yes.
I want to see Damien do that now.
I don't think this would happen.
No. Did you break in like as a single, or did you start out as? I know you teamed with him with Damien for a good while. Is that how it started?
No, I started as singles, and then we started with. I think it was. Don't get me wrong here, because I'm not even going to say the name of the company because I'm not 100% sure who it was, but it was a bigger one in West Virginia at the time, and they asked me and Chuck to tag team, and that's what started it, and we became the Hatchet Crew, and actually ran as a tag team for a long time. But no, I started as a singles whenever I first went in.
The first thing I ever heard about yourself looking back was you and Chuck, the Hatchet Crew.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was a thing for a while.
I remember seeing pictures like, those guys there's something about them that stuck out. It was like, that's different.
It was the face paint back then for me.
Yeah, which we can't talk you into doing anymore.
No, I'm good. Face paint in the eyes during a wrestling match is one of the worst things ever.
I completely agree.
And I'm good on having to deal with that again.
I remember when we had the lumberjack match for IWA in Buford.
Yes.
Right before we went to the ring, I was putting my paint on last minute, and we were still kind of. I remember you and I hadn't talked about anything for the match because it was supposed to be me and Damien.
Yeah.
And right before we went out, I was saying, I can't remember what it was you said, but you made me crack up, and I took the paintbrush and just jammed black paint right into my right eye. So I'm going out there, and I can't see anything. And it was so hot in that building that the paint on the other side started running into my eyes. So I was wrestling you blind.
You're welcome.
I also, it made it great. I mean, in hindsight, the match is one of my favorites we've done.
It was a lot of fun.
Easy. When did you first? Was the first company you wrestled for? Was that BCW with Viper? Like
no,
outside of Warlords, or
the first one I started with was AWA MWA, which was Mike Howerton used to run it in West Virginia, and my first one, which actually on YouTube, if you look up Joka Wyld, you can find this little like clip video that I made a long time ago. Excuse me. And the first match I was ever in was a Royal Rumble. Well, a Rumble.
Yeah.
But it's on YouTube somewhere. Which is funny because I actually I didn't start as Joka Wyld whenever I first started. I used to wrestle it. Yeah, I used to wrestle as Carnage. But there was another guy there named Carnage. So that night I was Venom.
That is so creative.
And then I just decided to stick with Joka Wyld.
Then again, how many people with the last name Cross are there in the business? So I can't say too much about being creative, can I?
I know there's that one asshole Connor Cross.
Oh, Canada.
Smack that guy. That's right. Don't think just because of COVID I've forgotten about him.
Well, since you mentioned COVID, I know we're jumping around and not following any kind of timeline, but
there is no structure with me. That's not how it works.
Well, just like with my gimmick in wrestling, the idea of calling the podcast Unhinged allows me to justify being a really bad host. Of course, I know COVID has shut everything down, especially entertainment-wise. What are your thoughts on the whole situation with COVID and how it's shut down, especially with wrestling?
It's all just a big conspiracy by Trump.
Wow. Okay.
I'm kidding. No, like honestly, I don't know what to think about it half the time. Like it's crazy, and I have kids, so like honest, I'm gonna take it serious because I don't want my kids and shit getting sick. But yeah, the entertainment thing sucks. Like I understand not allowing crowds, but I don't get why we can't just do like something.
Because I know right now they say in Ohio you can't really do anything with wrestling. Like you can do training if you own your own private facility.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
think
10 or less people.
I'm pretty sure that's all you're allowed to do right now in Ohio is just training stuff. I think.
Yeah. I was even attempting to try to find, like, things started to open up a little bit. I tried to find some bookings for music, and two of the places I was getting ready to contact that were booking music just shut everything down again. So I'm like, there's no avenue for anything.
No, not at all. Like, I know where I live, there was supposed to be like a small music thing, like an outdoor at the park here, and the town canceled that.
Yeah, I hate that they're doing it, but at the same time, I will do whatever it takes myself to get through this faster.
Yeah.
And I will say, I am starting to worry that it looks like maybe no more wrestling through the rest of the year.
I've honestly, as soon as we got to like the middle of June, I was like, it's not going to be till next year till we can do a show again. And that's still being hopeful.
Yeah. So I've still got posters saved where I was working on the next month's poster when everything shut down. And it was a really good poster, and it won't matter now. So you said that's the other companies where you got your start. When did you first really get
Yes.
tied in with Viper and what led to BCW? Because there's not a whole lot of stories told about that. A lot of people don't really talk much about it.
Yeah. When I first started, like, really getting into wrestling, I met, well, my brother Chuck introduced me to his friend Donald Akins, and he was like doing a little training thing in this small company called Warlords. Like, it would be considered a backyard wrestling technically, but it wasn't, because we actually like produced full shows and we had crowds that would come watch, and there were storylines, and it wasn't your
And a
average
ring.
like, yeah, and a ring, a hard solid ring, but a ring nonetheless. But I think Viper knew Donald, and he came out to check out a show or something there, and then offered training to us, like legit training by him. And then I know we did a after we trained and all that fun stuff. We did a what's the word I'm looking for here? A fundraiser for this girl that we knew who got into a bad car crash, and
I know who you're
yeah,
talking about, actually.
yeah. So from there, we one of the guys who came out, he had just bought a ring, and he ended up selling it to Viper, and that's whenever we start doing BCW, because at the same time there was one called PIW that used to run down in Southern Ohio too, and like they used a lot of the same guys that BCW used, like Vance Desmond and Brandon Morgan and Cole Cash, those type of people. But yeah, and then we started having fun.
I remember seeing posters for shows. I never actually made it to a BCW show.
Well, that's because you
Really bad.
suck. But
I was there at the Oxford and everything was setting up, and I wound up getting really sick and had to leave because I was like, "Hey, there's a ring. What's this?"
it's okay. I hate wrestling at that. It's nothing against the Oxfest, and it's nothing against the people, because they always get way into it at
It's the
that.
sun.
It's just so hot out there. I'm like, I
I
don't want to do this right now.
remember last year when we were preparing for the show, you were wrestling Brandon Skinner, and you guys were both like,
Yes.
"It's so hot. What can we do that's not working?"
I'm like, you're gonna pick like two of the biggest guys in the company to go against each other. Thanks, Brad. I still love you, but thanks.
So I remember I wrestled David, and David just took forever getting in the ring, and he didn't tell me that he was going to buy time. So I'm just in there waiting. I'm like, how long should I wait? When should I just go after him?
Hey, but
And
I
I
got to
wanted
do
to
that.
chase him, but it was so hot. I'm like, I'll just wait here because I found a shade spot.
I got to do that amazing chop to him though during that match.
Oh, that was. I'm laying on the mat, and my eyes are closed, and I hear that, and I'm thinking, is that a gunshot?
He said, "Did someone just get shot?"
It was like you were only a few feet from me when you did that.
Wait,
That was a really fun show.
they had like these crazy powerful snaps there that I put a bunch of them in my hand and just chopped him, and yeah, it made a wonderful sound.
What would you say, especially in the earlier career that you had, what was probably if you had to think of any like really wild stories, any wilder matches, nights that stand out as a holy shit type of night?
I can't think of any like crazy matches, but probably the most ridiculous story that I can think about was me and Sean Day were in a car together.
Oh, no.
And this wasn't even on the way to a wrestling show. This was just like a normal day. And I think it was his girlfriend or something in the back. And we started arguing, like fake arguing in the car as we're driving. And we're like getting heated, like yelling at the top of our lungs at each other. And finally he just stops the car and we get out and proceed to fake kick each other's ass in front of the car. And she is freaking out. Like, what are you guys doing? And then we just stopped and got back in the car like nothing happened and drove away.
Did anyone ever explain it to her or just let it go?
Nope. Never said anything else about it after that.
Now, if only there'd been a video footage of that somewhere.
Well, I was gonna say that's the sad thing is that took like when all that fun stuff was going on, like you had flip phones and it was just not as good of quality
Yeah.
that you could get with it.
I know when you guys were doing Warlords, is around the same time that my buddies and I were doing our own thing. We couldn't afford a ring, and no one was smart enough to build a ring. Or I should say, we're smart enough to not waste money on building a ring that we would have made poorly.
Fair.
And I will say one thing though. Given I know I've seen where the ring was set up, technically it wasn't backyard, it was front yard.
That's true too. That
So
is true. It was front yard.
wrestling.
We were a step above backyard. We were front yard.
That was always our joke too. We're like, hey, we're not backyard wrestlers, we're front yard wrestlers.
Exactly.
And I remember like, hearing people talking about, hey, there's some guys over across the county that are doing the same thing, and I was like, huh, bet you they're doing it wrong. Of course, you guys all got into the business like 10 years before me, so again, that means that you guys had 10 more years of wear and tear too. So who won?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you've ever watched one of my matches, but I usually don't have to take a whole lot of bumps. So it's
I worked one of your matches, and I don't think you took any bumps.
See?
I think I took one.
It's the plus side of being Joka Wyld. I'm going to spend 90% of my time talking smack and only 10% actually trying to hurt you.
Well, here's a story that could be, there might be a story to this, I don't know. I'll never know until I ask. So what led to you stepping away from the business? What really led to you stepping away from the business?
I know what you're trying to do, but I can't go full into detail, but a person. I learned some things about him and some things that were going on behind the scenes and decided I just didn't want to deal with this anymore. And yeah, then I started doing music.
A lot less beating, isn't it?
A lot less. A lot more forgetting nights though, because playing at bars, you tend to end up drunk by the end of the night.
I was always the weird exception. I never drank at shows.
I wouldn't drink until after the performance. I know good and well that if I get drunk, I'm gonna be nothing that you want to see on a stage.
I've had a few of those happen before, not to myself, but with people in my bands. So I know what that's like. So when did you first really get involved in music?
I want to say around 2009, 2010, somewhere around there. Okay. And I've always been a big fan of hip hop, like actual hip hop. I hate the stuff they play on the radio now. And this is the God honest truth of how I started rapping. One of my friends just randomly recorded a song on his laptop, like using the little voice recorder thing that was on old laptops and this cheap mic. And I was like, I think I can do a song better than him. So I took the microphone from Rock Band.
Oh boy.
And plugged it into the computer and used that to record my own song. And then we ended up linking up together and just starting a group that we released a whole 5 songs. Yes. that right there. That is the exact mic. That was the start of J Wyld.
Can't imagine what the J stands for.
No idea. Clearly, it stands for James Wyld, okay? Because that was my name.
I thought it was Jeffrey.
No. You got to avoid Jeffries. Those Epsteins are weird.
Oh God, I wasn't even thinking about going there. That's an island I don't want to go to.
I'm just waiting for all that craziness to come out. Oh.
See, I know your brother. He was in music for quite a while before he probably even got into wrestling, wasn't he?
Yeah, yeah, because he played guitar for a band called Break of Day that actually made it pretty big, like down around the Southern Ohio and like Athens, and they played there a lot. And I think in West Virginia too.
You never
But
really
I know
got
that
tied in with that back at that point, or
I was still in high school back in that point, so
I sometimes forget how
but
much older than us Chuck is.
he's really old.
Because I say I graduated class of 2004. I'm not
Yeah,
sure what
I
year you
was
did. So
I was '05.
so I'm even older than you. God, I feel old.
Bam.
That's okay. I've still got more hair, although it's just on the back.
Listen, listen. Do you see this glorious beard? I don't need all the hair on the head. It's okay.
I do
I
it. The
do.
podcasters won't. In case you're all wondering, he kind of pretended to flip me off just now. If you're listening,
Hey,
that's
hey,
what
hey. Read between the lines, Cross.
it's in subtitles. Flipping off in subtitles. Okay. So how long? Like, did you like then go into like getting into a band, or did you do a solo thing, or how did it
I've
work
done
out? 'Cause
both.
I don't
I've
know
done
anything about hip hop, honestly. I play rock.
well. Basically, what you do when you perform for hip hop is you'll have the instrumental beat playing in the background, and you just rap and perform. So
You
it's
don't
a
need as many
fancy
people.
right. But I started as a duo with my friend that I said I could do a song better than, and then me and him had a falling out, and so I started doing just solo stuff, and that's whenever I actually started like doing a lot of shows and recording a lot of music and everything, which it's still out there. If you look up Jay Wyld, you can find my music and everything.
Yeah.
And like I played at the Al Rosa all the time up in Columbus, which that place is awesome, and I felt honored to get to play there because it's had a lot of big acts come through there.
Is that where the thing
That
with
is where,
Dime happened?
yeah, that is where
Yeah,
Dimebag
that's
and
what I thought.
creepily enough, you can still see bullet holes. Yeah, yeah, it was weird.
I've talked to people that have been there since. They said it's not really the same after that. They said there's an
No,
eerie vibe in there now.
it
But I've
it
never
got
been, so
it tended to be a little less classy too.
I can't imagine why. You think. I mean, the bullet holes don't make you just feel at home.
I mean, I grew up on the South Side, so kind of.
God, that is so wrong.
It's true though.
So,
But
are you
yeah,
still doing music, or are you out of that now?
no, no,
Or
no. I did that until Donald and Trey got me to come check out KVW.
oh,
And shortly before I started KVW is whenever I had stopped doing music.
so what led to getting out of music? Just burnout,
I
or
I probably would have became an alcoholic if I had
oh,
kept performing.
that's a good reason to stop then.
Well, towards the end of whenever I was doing music, there was this bar over on the west side of Columbus called Burnsies. And I was good friends with the guy who DJ'd there, and his mom owned the bar. And so we were performing there like almost every single night of the week, like me and a whole bunch of other local rappers. And we were getting really fucking drunk every day of the week there. And I apologize that I keep dropping F bombs, but
Hey, I did
it's
it
not my fault.
before. Well, remember, I
But
did
yeah,
drop one on Venetia's podcast directed at someone very specific, so I really can't say anything.
I didn't drop the F bomb on someone specific, just the C bomb.
Which was perfect.
It was perfect.
Brenda.
Alrighty, but yeah,
Uh,
and so then I ended up in KVW
I believe your first night there, you were just there just to watch, weren't you? The
to
first time
watch
you
and
were there.
to watch and to shop you.
Oh, because I remember the chop because I knew Sean at that point. I'd met Sean, and I knew going into that match, I had gotten myself some heat.
Right.
So at one point, Donald threw my shirt over my head and started pulling me through the crowd. And he, kind of as we're talking, he's like, "I'm letting all the kids hit you." I'm like, "That's great. Let them all do it." And of course, one of the kids there, one of the wrestler's sons, instead of hitting me in the back like everyone else did, he turns around and punches me in the nose through the shirt. I didn't even see it. It turned out it was TJX's oldest son. Wham! So then they dragged me over to you, and I'm sitting there holding my face, and all I know is I'm like, my face hurts. My face hurts. And I feel a crack that feels like I just got hit by a lightning bolt, and then I feel one that feels like I just got hit by a sledgehammer. And I know one was you, and one was Sean.
You felt the power of Mucha.
Like I said, I don't know who hit me first, but I think it's the hardest I've ever been hit in the business.
You're welcome. It's like, no, it was probably Sean if it was the hardest. He had a deadly, deadly chop.
Because I don't know who hit first, but the first one hit really bad. The second one just burned.
It just burned.
Just like pain. Remember that night? Because that was the night I believe the same night they pulled out the thumbtacks.
Yes.
Which was actually kind of a rib on me, I guess. Because I told them all I didn't want to do thumbtacks, and then Donald dumps them out.
You should never tell. You should never tell them.
Well, like I said, I knew it was all about kind of squashing the heat and showing out the team players. So I'm like, I'll do whatever it takes to make everyone happy. I don't mind. I remember when the thumbtacks came out, I'm sure you probably got a good kick out of watching me screaming and begging and saying I'm not doing it. And, F this, F that. I'm just not doing it. And I was trying my best to sound out of character the whole time thinking, okay, I'm going to do this. It's going to be great. And I look up and everybody else is bumping in them and laughing. And I'm like, crap. I've got to sell these for real. And no one else apparently feels them. Then I remember I got in the ring and Brad's son Colby hit me. And when he did, he kind of hit and pushed. And I planned on falling backwards into them. I did not plan on being power slammed backwards into them. And I remember I got home that night, and like 2 hours after I got home, I shifted, and I still had one in my butt. I don't know how, because it was like up underneath where the shorts had been. I'd already changed clothes and still had one stuck in me.
If it makes you feel any better, I had to take Viper's finisher into thumbtacks once.
Ooh, that couldn't have been fun.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. I've always agreed with his saying on thumbtacks. They're not really that bad when it's a whole bunch of them. Yes. It's when you find that one randomly in a match.
So I know after that, right, like the very next show after that's when you came in and initially as a babyface, just as a ruse.
Yes. Because I think we had it. I think they had me come in as me and Donald Vane Lewis were gonna be feuding, and then I turned at the end of the show and joined with him.
After working a whole match against him, you turned.
Yes. And somehow I became the Warlords champion.
I remember sitting there watching that match because I was at ringside in full cross gimmick. And I had been one of the hotter heels. You guys did that. I'm like, oh, there goes my thunder.
He said, well, crap. So
it was a recurring theme during that KVW time because there was that. And a few months later, I wrestled Trey, had a great match. Then the whole thing with you and Mucha, and I was again like, ha. Well, there goes.
Are you talking about whenever I was working heel and had Mucha as a face?
Yes. You wrestled Dave at the same show where I wrestled Trey in the Pit of Danger.
Hey, the Pit of Danger is legendary, okay?
I want to bring that back. I want to wrestle you in the Pit of Danger.
I accept.
No, not you. I want to wrestle Mucha in a Pit of Danger match. Just Mucha.
See, back to the COVID thing, though. I don't know when.
You'll be handcuffed to the corner. You can't get involved.
I don't know when I'm going to get to see Mucha again, though. Because COVID has caught. He's still down in Mexico. He went down to go see some family.
Well, that's really sad.
Yeah, he thought it was just going to be a couple-week vacation with some family, and I haven't seen him since March.
We'll light a candle for Mucha tonight.
I appreciate that. I think he will too.
After you got back into it, Was there any plan to like just stick with there, or did you intend on getting back like you used to and spreading out and doing a bunch of shows? Or
No, I never had any interest in like going around and doing a ton of shows. Like one or two places at the most, maybe, but that was it. I,
so I
I didn't
know
want to.
we're about to get into one. Um, what led? How did you get tied up into the IWA?
I actually used to watch IWA because in Columbus they would broadcast it on the public access channel there, and so I would actually watch it all the time. And it was one of my goals. Like I actually tried to convince my parents because they used to do a youth wrestling training for IWA, and I begged my parents to let me sign up for it, and they never would. So it always became a goal that if I ever got a chance to get into wrestling, I wanted to wrestle for IWA.
So what was it like?
And then I did.
So what was the feeling when you got there versus like what you'd see on TV versus your first show there?
My very first show there was actually pretty awesome because it was really packed. And yeah, it was my first time meeting Bull Miller, so I was excited about that. And Charlie Brown is who actually got me in there
Okay.
because he worked there a lot. And I told him that I had gotten back into wrestling, and I was like, hey, could you maybe put in a word for me or something, or tell me how to get in contact? And so we did, and yeah. And my first match was, I can't remember the guy's name, but he had one of those Indian gimmicks, a white guy pretending to be an Indian. Imagine that. But yeah, it wasn't that good because he was an older guy and couldn't really move all that well in the ring. Not as bad as Jerry the Gator was, rest in peace
That's what I
to
was
him.
going to ask if it was
But
scary.
no, I did wrestle him eventually. But
Was it wrestling?
no, because it was so the show, it was a 4-way match for the Ohio Heavyweight Championship, I think is what the title was.
Okay.
And it was Jerry the Gator, Chomp Chomp, versus yes, versus Joka Wyld, versus I think his name was Chris Ledbetter or Leadbelly or something
Okay.
like
Yeah. Sergeant
that.
Ledbetter, whatever he called himself.
Versus Guile Castle.
Oh boy.
And yeah, Guile and Jerry like worked in the ring, and me and Chris just decided that we had no interest in going in there and wrestling Jerry. So we literally stayed outside of the ring the entire time. Like he he dragged me around and had the crowd hit me, and we just stayed outside basically the entire match. I think we went into the ring for maybe a total of 30 seconds.
You said that was your second show there then, or third?
Yeah, I think that was my second or third, yeah.
So I don't think you were there too long before I wound up coming in, because I remember Trey contacted me and told me that you were there and that Guile was there, and I was like, if they're there and Charlie Brown's there, yeah, I'm game, because I'd never heard of the company until I showed up.
I will say at that time, like the time like when you guys first came in too, it was a lot better. Like the locker room was fun.
Oh yeah, that first show was really good. It was against you, although, well, sort of. It was a 5-way match, and as soon as the bell rang, you dove yourself out of the top rope and eliminated yourself. I was like, well, I guess I'm not wrestling Jerry tonight.
That'll teach you.
I remember I was so excited when I got there. I was like, okay, I've got the craziest gimmick here. I'll stand out. I even had the extra paint with the white and different colors and the black mustache and stuff, just look creepy as I could. And then I walk out of the bathroom where I've been doing the paint, and I look and I see this guy with green face and like these green pointy ears and all leather. And I'm like, huh. Story of my life.
Just when you thought you were the weirdo.
And then they're like, oh, and you're working with him. It's like, so I'm in the same match with this guy. How am I going to stand out? I was like, well, I'll work with Jerry because I know we'll have some fun. And then you jumped out of the ring. Well, I'll work Guile. You know, he and I have worked so many matches before. It'd be good. He dies on top of you. So then there's Trey. Poor Trey. See, you could have been there with us, and we could have all three taken turns. We started playing a game of who can do the bigger moves to Trey Evers. And if you'd have been there, you could have also done big moves to Trey Evers.
Poor Trey.
It was like
Hey,
DDT, scoop slam, suplex. Oh, now we're going to do this to him. And then Trey somehow just eliminated me randomly.
Hey, I'll have you know that me and Trey would later go on to form the greatest tag team before Wild Days. Wild Days is the greatest tag team now. But before that, we had the greatest tag team in the entire world for one match or one show.
One show.
One show.
And what was that tag team?
9-inch nipples.
That's franchise right there.
I could just hear the cash register ringing from T-shirts going out the door. It was.
And then you never did it again.
It could have been huge. True story. After the show, well, no, it was during intermission. Me and him went out there and we're like, talking with fans and doing the good guy thing. Because for a rare thing, I think that's the only time I've played a good guy since I really started again. But some old guy comes up to us and just starts talking about how great our match was and how much he enjoyed it and how he got super into it and he loved how we interacted with the fans. And then it gets weird.
Huh.
Because he's like, can I take you
guys out? It wasn't weird at 9-inch nipples.
No. 9-inch nipples.
That wasn't weird yet.
9-inch nipples is just a normal, everyday thing. But so he's like, can I take you guys out to get something to eat after this? He was like, I'll give you my number. I can really get some good connects with you guys. And just trying everything to get us to spend some time with him. And for one thing, I was worried for the safety of Trey. Because Trey's not a big guy. So just I'm kidding, Trey. I love you. But
he's got a big heart.
Huge heart. Well, didn't mean to put my finger all up in the camera there.
I feel like I got touched a little bit just now.
You liked it.
That made it a very touching story. I'm sorry, I'm not funny, people. I try. Well,
hey, that's all
what that guy should have done if he wanted to become friends with you guys is he should have just started a podcast.
Right. I mean, that's the secret.
That's
but podcasts weren't as big at that point as they are now.
So that's the reason I chose to do videos, because there's so many people doing podcasts. I'm like, well, I'll do something different.
Right.
I'll make you have to look at this.
Which I think is a good time to announce that I'm starting my own podcast. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not really.
Oh, I was going to say, I want to be on it. It's like, you unfortunately, the first run with IWA didn't pan out. Because I remember, after I came in, they started building a feud with you and I, and it was meant to be a swerve just to put you, me, and Damien together. And then Chuck did a one and done on us. He did the one show, and he's just wrestled me 2 more times and never showed up.
Hey, that's how we accidentally ended up with the fun lumberjack match, though.
Yeah, it just got sad because by the time I realized that, it became obvious that he wasn't going to be in it.
I was going to say, wasn't you also...
We sold him on the team, and then Chuck wasn't there.
Wasn't you supposed to do a body bag match with him, too, and you ended up later doing one with David?
Yeah. It was supposed to culminate in the body bag match, and I was trying to figure out how to swerve that around, and my original plan was to have you come out and help him to put me in the body bag. David comes out to make the save, and then I would put David in the body bag, and that would be the end of the match, and suddenly we've got a stable going. But none of that happened. And then the show after we started the group, you were out. Would you like to tell that story?
Of how I got out of IWA?
Yeah, because the people that have a problem with it can't do anything anymore. One of the guys is dead.
I wouldn't. Ouch! But I wouldn't have cared before.
Honest, he is. I mean, I love.
I had no problem speaking out and telling my side of why I got kicked out of IWA because it was absolutely stupid. But literal it was weeks in advance. I told them that, and I was their United States champion at this time, that cursed ass belt. But yeah, I told them that I wouldn't be able to do the next show, and they made it seem like it was okay. But then the next thing I know, I'm getting told that they've parted ways with me. I was like, well, what? And I tried to message Bull about it, and he wouldn't respond. And I think Andrew was the first person to respond and explain to me why they booted me and all that. But yeah, so I was not pleased.
We, the wrestlers there, we found out about it the day of the show. That morning, dial starts blowing up my phone, and I'm at work. And the story that we were initially told was that you canceled that morning. And we were like, well, that sucks. But even then, we were still on your side, even though we were like, what? I remember going into it, Charlie Brown had talked about doing a walkout. And me and David were in agreement with it. And then, like, last minute, that didn't happen. And it led to me and David having the body bag match. And it was just such a weird night because it became for your belt. And David told him that night that he was going to quit. And then they put the belt on David that night. I was like, I didn't say I was quitting. He did.
I swear.
Huh?
I said it works, I swear.
It didn't make sense to me because at that point I hadn't said I was leaving. I was really considering it, but I hadn't said it. But the guy that won the belt told him he wasn't going to be there. Wouldn't you go with the guy that doesn't say he's quitting?
Well, I mean, obviously, no.
Yeah. Like I said, that is the story of my life in IWA, anyways.
Being built up to nothing?
Pretty much. Every angle got shut down because after that, it led to me being with Omega and Psycho.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I was supposed to have a match against their champion at the time. This was a while back. And he actually refused and did not come to the show because he said that I did not have good enough gear.
Shane Christian.
You damn right.
I'm out in that son of a bitch. I remember when he told me that, I was like, well, that's okay. He also knows how to work and you don't. Apparently, he didn't like when I said that.
I'm not complaining, though, because I ended up having a fun three-way match with, I can't remember the other guy's name, but I know Charlie Brown was involved in it. And I got to pull out a little putter set and hit a ball in Charlie Brown's balls. So there's that.
Anytime you get to hit Charlie in the balls, it's always a good night.
Anytime you can hit anyone in the balls, it's usually a good night.
Yeah, but especially Charlie.
Oh, well, yeah. He's a blockhead.
It's so, there's so much sympathy. I mean, I really wish that you could have had a football
there. That would have been amazing.
Your video has frozen up.
What?
Yeah, you're still in one room with a blurry face.
I've become a ghost.
I think so. But the audio is still clear, so we can still go. Listen, there was a long gap after that without being involved in the business, wasn't there?
After the IWA?
Yeah.
Yes. Hey, I can see myself moving now.
So did you consider doing any other wrestling at that point, or were you just burnt out? Or
it burnt me out on it again because it reminded me of how shady some people can be in wrestling, and which at that point, like, I'm in my late 20s. I'm not really interested in dealing with that type of stuff anymore. But yeah, then I got dragged back in.
Hey, they had to offer you a belt to do it too, huh?
I mean, honestly, I would have came back and done it even if there wasn't a belt involved, just because I love Brad, and I have since KVW days. And so when I heard he was doing the TWA thing, I was instantly like, all right.
So how would you, what would you say makes, everyone that's talked about TWA and Brad always, on every podcast, anywhere, always puts Brad over as one of the best promoters they've worked with.
Oh yeah.
And we both know him for years. But what would you say makes TWA stand out from other places you worked?
You get a huge variety of things. Like it's not your everyday run of the mill where it's a weaker, lower card with big endings. It's every match has the potential to always be match of the night, and that's one of the things I really love about TWA. Like even whenever I'm in the back, we're usually like peeking through the curtain, watching or watching on the little monitor back there. It's always exciting to see what the next match will bring, because I've noticed most of the guys in TWA, which I love about this, is that we always try to top the last match. Everybody tries to top, yeah. And I love that it puts that like friendly competition in the air. And I don't even want to call it competition, because TWA locker room is like so much like a family that it's not even like real competition, but it's friendly competition.
It's like competition with siblings, it's
right.
Yeah, I love you, we're family, but I want to do better than you. I don't want you to do bad. I want you to do as good as you can, and I want to still do better. It's kind of how I look at it. Like, I want everyone to have the best match possible, and then I want to have a better match than that. And I several times watching, especially when you and David work, I look at that and go, well, I got my work cut out for me. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, every show there, I'll compare it to like my last run at IWA, which we'll get into when we brought you back in a minute. But for me, it got to where I knew I was having some of the better matches of the night, but I didn't care.
Right.
And I didn't feel really pushed to put on that good show. I was still putting on a good show because out of being professional, and I felt that obligation to give the fans something, but there wasn't any feeling of, well, these guys are going to work, so I got to do this. The only time I felt that was actually the last night there when I had the match against Skinner, because I knew later on that night it was going to be you and Joshua Charles, and it was two guys that were also in TWA. And I was like, they're going to have a hell of a match. Let's give them something that they have to follow, because I knew we get hyped up when we see good matches, but when you've had a series of bad matches and then you're going out there, it's hard to get excited.
Yeah. I mean, it could be worse. You could have security stop you from doing a run-in.
Oh, God. I forgot about that. Well, we'll get there in just a second. Heading back, if you're back in TWA now.
Yes.
A lot of it's the same gang you kind of got into the business with too, isn't it?
Oh yeah, a lot of the Warlords guys. David and Donald and my brother Chuck and no one else that I care about. No,
right.
I said no one else I care about. No, he wasn't there at that time.
Well, he is now, but.
Well, now, yes. But
going from there, this is where I'm going to get myself in hot water here. Tell the story of how you got roped back into IWA.
Because you're a whore? No.
Accept that.
You should. I put full blame on you. I'm sorry.
you really should. Although, I'll admit, my intentions with bringing people back in was that we were trying to turn the company around.
Right.
We need to have at least some players. Because that's when, I believe Connor was still back, was kind of in charge of booking when you came back, wasn't he?
Back when he was what?
I think Connor was in charge of the booking when we first had you come back in.
Yes.
And I think immediately Caleb booked something for you instead.
I was going to say, though, but the booking, I'm sure Connor heard about it, but one of my rules whenever I said I was going to come back was that I told Caleb that I was only working with David.
Yeah.
I agreed to come in and do like a little trilogy thing with David.
Well, that's what I even told Connor we were going to do. And I said, if he decides to stick around afterward, I said, we could go ahead and start planting seeds for you to do something with me, people that you know, like me or Josh, or even someone like Connor by then, because I knew even though you didn't know Connor, I was like, he can go, and I knew you'd have fun with him.
Oh, yeah. I did eventually.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it would have been heel and heel, but we still could have made it work if you make it like a title situation where it doesn't matter. There's a reason. Because there were, like I said, there were some good workers there. There were some that.
Oh yeah.
A lot of them really, I think it was the booking that really hurt worse than their talent. Not all. There were some that really shouldn't have been there, and I've called them out.
Well, it was booking, and then there was Kodiak.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm going to say about that.
And the real foam bat. Hey, there was a really great Kodiak promo. He didn't do it, but there was a really
but
great
there
Kodiak
was.
promo. I mean, I'm not too worried about him getting mad. Last I heard, he had me blocked, so he can see this.
I don't know if he has me blocked. I don't think we were ever friends on Facebook or anything, so it's okay.
Probably not. Yeah, I remember, like I said, we brought you back, and the intention was to do that 3 matches, and I was hoping that would lead to, because we were trying to get Donald to come in as well.
Yeah.
And the original plan was for Donald to come in and have 1 match against me and have it come like he was going to eke out the victory and lead to him taking the title from Josh. From there, I kind of wanted to work where David would face him, and then you would maybe work against Josh in a number 1 contenders match, and have the whole thing where Josh had to work back up, because like that's talent. That's the undercard would still kind of be where it was, but I was like, if we can build an upper card, we could at least give people reason to want to be there.
Right.
And then you became part of a Kentucky family, I guess.
Oh, my cult / weird sibling storyline that I got put in.
Yeah, where you're suddenly someone's dad, and there was the stuffed teddy bear that you were mangling, and.
Hey, I'll have you know, I mangled the hell out of that bear. Okay.
I mean, if they had just got done with the angle where she'd been kidnapped by the asylum, you know, with.
I heard about that, and it wasn't it like her first time being on a show?
Yes, she got kidnapped on her first show before anyone knew who she was. And
how do you get the crowd to care about you?
That's like I said, like, why would the crowd care that some girl they've never met just got kidnapped by people they've never met?
Right.
I mean,
you got to have some kind of build up for something like that. Then again, call me crazy, but I don't think you need storylines like that on an independent show, anyways.
No, it's too much. Now I love storylines. I mean, obviously.
Oh yeah.
But
and you can tell stories and you can have storylines going, but like WWE dramatic level storylines, I think that's a little far fetched for indie shows.
Oh yeah, I mean, I know there's some guys that say, well, indie shows don't need any stories; it's just matches. No, there needs to be a reason for the fans to care, but
right,
it could be simple. Look at like our posts back and forth. It could be as simple as this guy said something in a promo early in the night, and that guy took offense to it. Now they don't like each other, and the fans that were there know what it is. It can be in one show, the whole story told, and people just don't get that. It doesn't have to be complicated, but there needs to be some motivation. Because unless you have a title match every match, what's the match for? And they definitely didn't want to do that. They wanted to tell big cinematic stories, and I'm like, sorry, but none of you are Matt Hardy. None of you are broken, and this is not wonderful.
I don't know. There's some of their minds might have been broken, but not in a brilliant Matt Hardy way.
Some of their wrestling skills were broken.
You had to have them to break them.
Oh, okay. I know after they closed, it did lead to a number of people from there, getting tryouts with TWA. I think most of them worked out pretty good, like bringing in Creighton. I think his first match was against you, wasn't it?
Yes. Oh my God. So, I don't know if the people watching this know this or not, but Chris is he's a little bit shorter than me.
Just a little
bit. And he goes to do a what is it called? Like a kitchen sink? Is that what it's called? Where they knee you in the gut?
Yeah.
And didn't realize that my gut was a little bit higher than where his knee was going, and just full blow knees me in the balls. And I just instantly crumpled. Like I didn't have to sell. I didn't have to pretend. I went down. And he goes to pick me up, and I'm like, I'm going to need a second. But yeah. So now that's an ongoing joke between Chris and I.
I got to work Chris twice afterwards, and I know it was night and day different from seeing him in uh, up in IWA. So and it's funny when he first came into IWA, we were looking at the company he was in, GWF, and me and Andrew used to have conversations about those guys going, they were having a hard time drawing a crowd, and we're talking about this. They were telling us that the shows were really rough, but they were doing really good in IWA, and we're like, well, maybe the difference is booking, not to knock the people that were booking there, of course, but then if, what is it, like not a year later, the same thing's happening, we're like, well, what's the difference between when they're down here versus IWA?
Right.
And so I know you've got to work with a number of different people in IWA that you probably did, or TWA that you didn't work before.
Oh, yeah.
Like him and Skinner, and of course IHOP, which I think is a great tag team.
Yes. Vanish.
Yeah, I never got to work Vanish. I turned heel or turned babyface to work Vanish, and never did it.
He's really, really easy to work with in a ring. Like, yeah, he's a solid worker, and he's a good guy.
I told him I definitely want to work with him at some point. We're gonna make it happen one way or the other. If I just have to start calling him out until he gets so mad he drives across the country to beat me up, I'll do it.
Or you could just do like me and you, where we just have a never-ending feud.
Our match will never live up to the hype.
Never. It doesn't matter. We could go out there and pull
finger poke a doom.
We could go out there and pull off some like AJ Styles versus Will Ospreay craziness, and it still wouldn't live up to all the expectation that we've put into it from our ridiculous childlike yelling.
You mean like calling someone a doo-doo head?
Listen, first of all,
here we go.
I can't with you.
You got
I can't.
nothing.
I really don't right now. You took my go-to with the doo-doo head.
I know. That's why occasionally I'll post that one, because like that's his line. I'll use it. I think we've covered all the things I planned on covering, and I think we did anyways. There's no Vanish here to correct if I missed stuff, because I guarantee he's gonna listen to this and be like, "You guys forgot so much. You have no business doing a podcast. You are unprofessional."
You guys fired.
And I'll be like, "Yes, I know."
You're 100% correct. I have a very crazy outgoing personality, and so seriousness is not one of my fortes.
I've just been informed that there is a slim chance we may wind up having a naked baby on the podcast. Yeah.
Listen, I just said Jeffrey Epstein earlier. I don't think that we should have a naked baby on the podcast.
That's true. He mentioned Epstein earlier. We probably shouldn't do that. Okay, no naked baby. That's been nixed.
All right, yeah.
I am one episode in on the verge of shutting this whole thing down. I'm gonna have people in suits come to my house as soon as this uploads.
Sir.
Where was CPS and the CIA? Come with us. Well, there are the secret police thing going around now too, apparently, abducting people.
I read something about that, but not a whole lot, so I can't really say much about it.
Here's an uncomfortable topic. As anyone in the wrestling world knows, just in the past month, wrestling has had its own Me Too movement come out with the speaking out. And, I've seen a lot of names that got mentioned. Some of them people were going, "Oh, okay," and I'm not surprised. But then there's other ones that are still shocking me when I hear them. What were your thoughts when you first started hearing about all this?
It was crazy the amount that were coming out, because I can honestly say in my time in wrestling, I've never seen that type of stuff go on at shows that I've been on. And so it astounded me that there was that much of it going on at so many shows. And it's not even like it was like lower level shows. Like, these are big, like, names, like household names doing this stuff. And it's just like they say, I guess it's guilty or innocent until proven guilty, but it's insane.
So I know I kind of use that when I was talking to Manish on his podcast as kind of a segue to, I know you'd heard the story before, probably with me and the West Virginia show that went totally awry, where we went up with a whole bunch of heat because of the TJX conversation with the booker. And with, even though it's, of course, I won't put the kind of bullying and stuff like that anywhere on near the same level, but I do
Right.
think it has given people an opening to talk about things that have happened to them that they didn't want to mention for whatever reason. A lot of it usually has to do with your spot or your booking. Did you have an experience like that that you never, that you didn't feel comfortable talking about before or anything like that you want to bring up?
Not really. Like it.
Let's say a lot of
Like
times you have people with you too, which it helps when you
yeah.
got someone like Damien with you.
I was gonna say it helps when you're like 6'2", but no. The only issues I've ever had with people in wrestling, like I've said, I've brought most of them up in this, but I don't like to throw names, but it was nothing like that type of stuff. Just your normal shady everyday people thing.
Like having to be someone's dad and have a teddy bear, or having to deal with
Right.
Brenda.
Ugh.
The funny thing is, I never really knew that she didn't like me until it was made very obvious by people telling me, "Yeah, she wants you gone."
Well, that's because she didn't want you to steal her spotlight. You know, she was the star.
I remember there was a show where I was supposed to chase her to the back. It was like lead to her creating her new character, because she was an announcer. And they told me that I was supposed to berate her, and she's supposed to like cry and take off running, like I'd really freaked her out. And I'm screaming at her, and she's like doing this weird little power walk waddle thing, moving real slow, and she's like smiling and she's laughing, and I'm screaming in her face all the way to the back. And when we got behind the curtain, I just looked there and said, "You suck," and then I went right back out for the match because I was like so irritated. I'm yelling at her. She's supposed to be afraid, and she's just laughing hysterically because something I said struck her as funny. But I can't say I blame her, because I could see easily how someone could take Cross trying to be intimidating the wrong way. I think Cross is more intimidating when he's not trying to be intimidating.
It's when Cross is quiet that you got to be worried.
Or when he's doing like his final moments in IWA, when I'm being held back by security after legit trying to kill Heatwave. Which I did not know he could run that fast. I didn't know I could run that fast. But yeah, Brad and I were actually talking about that just last night, about how he's like, I think Kenny's really trying to kill him. Now, you just kind of stood there and looked around like, what am I in?
Go ahead.
You're like, so that just happened. And to this day, I don't know why I wanted to go after him, but it was a shoot. I was trying to hurt him.
It's because Heatwave is here.
I think he said that to me and just rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, it won't be for long.
That night was the one night that it was too far.
If only I'd have started shouting, "Winter is coming."
Don't you know the heat wave can melt the winter?
Shit. That's why I didn't come back. But I believe that was your last night there too, wasn't it?
Yep. Right after we set up us like being a little group. That was my last night. Doesn't that happen every time in IWA?
It happened every time you and I put together a group. So
yes.
I guess the best way to know if you're deciding to retire is if you pitch a new group with me.
Yeah, there you go. As long as we stay enemies, we're fine.
Real quick before we get off here, do you have any like I said, with everything, of course, wrestling is still shut down, and it's probably going to be shut down longer than music is. Do you have any plans to get back involved in music at any point, or?
Nope.
Nope. That was nice
No.
and simple.
I'm very weird. Like, I'll get really interested in doing something for a while, and I'll do that. Like, I got into acting in high school, so I did plays in high school. I got into wrestling after high school, so I did wrestling. I got into music after that, so I did music. And then I went back to wrestling. So I'm very ADHD when it comes to the entertainment business, life in general.
All right. Well, hopefully we get back to where we can wrestle again soon.
If not, I'm just gonna have to show up and kick your ass.
I'll just get a knock at the door one day with like a big box, and you'll just jump out of it.
Oh no, I'm coming at you like full Triple H Randy Orton style.
Just bring a cameraman and someone in the ref shirt.
Or should we do Brian Pillman and Stone Cold, where you have a gun and you're like freaking out in the house waiting? And
I don't have a gun, but
that works.
I'll brush your beard.
I could bring a teddy bear if you want.
Oh wait.
Yes. And then the camera gets shaky and cuts off, and it'll be wonderful.
Here. Should be the way we did the podcast.
Do you see that acting? That was amazing.
The people that are listening on audio right now are just like, quit talking, and that's the end. But if that's why you should go on YouTube.
It's true.
You want to go ahead and plug your merchandise again for the people that listen to the end.
On teespring.com, just look up Joka Wyld merchandise. You can find it on there. I got a few different t-shirt designs, and you can get stickers. You can get a taco. Not really on the taco, but I mean, you could put your sticker on a taco.
When can we get temporary tattoos?
Temporary, that's a genius idea, actually. The first time I did wrestling, I used to sell these inflatable hands that I would draw Mucha on.
Now, was it by inflatable hands, you mean like latex gloves?
I mean, yeah, but...
Just want to make sure, just clarify there.
Oh, yeah.
We also need to make we need Mucha COVID masks. Oh, it is just a regular COVID mask with Mucha's mouth drawn on it.
I was going to say, you can do masks on teespring.com, so this might happen.
And when we come back, will Mucha be adhering to the guidelines for social distancing? And will Mucha be wearing a mask?
Mucha
if he's allowed back overseas.
Right.
Overseas, well, not overseas. I mean, across the Mexican border.
Overseas? Where do you think he is? Sir, do you know how the map works?
This is Vincent Cross you're talking to.
That's true.
It might have been the concussions.
I mean, that or just, the cross brain.
Oh, shit, he did it back. All right.
See, now again, though, the people listening to the podcast are going to be so confused right then.
But, Edge and Christian had their thing for the people with the benefit of flash photography. We have for the benefit of YouTube. That's it. All right, well, definitely had fun with this. Probably the least organized podcast you'll ever be on.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks for coming on again, though, man.
Oh, no problem. It was fun.
Next time I'm going to get Chuck on here, and we can tell all sorts of stories about when you were a kid, since he's older than you.
Nobody cares about that guy. No,
I'm sure he's going to listen to this. For anyone who doesn't, that's listening right now, he had a really kind of not concerned, weird face that I can't describe. We need someone that can describe things.
It was my loving, caring face.
Oh, loving, caring face. Okay, he loves his brother.
Yeah.
You should do that in your best Cody voice. I love my brother.
Only if Chuck agrees to wear lingerie under the Damien costume one time.
Because it's a matter of time until we see a situation where you're going to be in the ring with Damien. And you're going to have a microphone. You're like, I don't need my friends. I need my brother. And we will end on that note. Now, hopefully, Cody's watching and he shows up and gives us both a crossroads because we deserve it.
I mean, it's probably true.
Hey, if he pays me the AEW bucks, I'll do it.
Huh?
I said, if he'll pay me the AEW bucks, I will definitely take a crossroads.
Sold. If his brother wants to hit the Shattered Dreams, it's okay too.
For anyone that doesn't know, we'll tell a little inside story. Before one of our last TWA shows, every member of the roster delivered a Shattered Dreams or 5 to Joka Wyld. And it didn't affect him at all.
I'll have you know, I felt a slight pinch.
Well, that's because I reached down to give you a slight pinch.
Oh, okay, that makes sense then.
Now you get it. Okay. All right. Well, yeah. Thanks, man, for coming on the show.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for having me.
I'll definitely have to edit a bunch of this out. Probably all
Probably.
of it. This will never make air, so.
It's gonna be like a 5-minute episode.
And I'll use clips of it and like make it look like you were saying things that you didn't say. You know.
Yes.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll be able to see you back in the ring again sometime soon.
I hope so. I miss it.
I think everyone misses it almost as much as they miss chanting Joka sucks. He's not even arguing with you people.
I mean,
We've
you're
reached the
not.
point where Joka's not even saying he doesn't suck.
No. I'm not saying that I suck. I'm saying that the crowd likes saying that.
Yes, they
But,
do.
I
It
mean-
works.
But I mean, to a bunch of backwoods, redneck, inbred West Virginians, what do you expect?
Can we
Sorry.
get a good Joka Wyld sign off?
This is Joka Wyld, your captain on the wild ride through all of this. Usually with Mucha, but he can't be here today. But not that it matters, because you idiots don't deserve Mucha ever. Ever. Ew. Yeah, just, ugh. Anyways, wear your mask, wash your hands, shut up, quit being stupid.